Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna change the transmission fluid on my Santa Fe 2013, but it's the same way to do with every Kia and Hyundai transmission because those transmissions are sealed. So you cannot take a dipstick and take a reading of what quantity you have on the transmission or even the condition of the fluid. So this is what we call sealed transmission. And first of all, those transmission, the filter is very deep inside of the transmission, so you cannot change this filter. You have to remove the transmission to change this filter. So today what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a change. What is the difference between a change and a flush? A flush will be to plug a machine to the hose of the transmission because there's a cooler for the most of the transmission, and they're gonna suck with machine every ounces of fluid that you can have on this transmission. So when you have to change your transmission fluid, Hyundai and Kia recommend every 60,000 miles, and this is good. And after that, every 30,000 miles, because you really want to keep this fluid really fresh. And because if you wait too long, your fluid's gonna be dark and it's gonna be full of metal particles. And by the way, I'm sorry for my English because my first slang is French, so this is why sometimes I sound strange. But this is some clutches, and yes, automatic transmission got a lot of clutch like this. So you got a steel plate like this one, and you got a clutch. And when the transmission apply a gear, they're gonna send oil pressure and they're gonna bound the friction and the plate, to together, okay? And between each of those circle, you're gonna have oil, the transmission fluid. And this transmission fluid, with the time, will came dark and will came with a lot of metal particles. If, by example, your transmission start to be wear, and it's normal, every transmission wears out, it's normal. But with the time, those clutches went thinner and thinner and thinner, so you can have problem, because if you flush all that nasty fluid and you remove all the metal particle inside of the oil, you're gonna lose some grip, because what makes the transmission move is the fact that all those clutch are tight together. So if you replace that with brand new fluid without any debris in it, you can have problem because your clutch are wear, they are used. So sometimes this is a bad thing to change your transmission fluid. So this is why maintenance is the key for those transmission. And now this transmission is sealed. You cannot smell it, you cannot see what kind of condition you have with those transmission, okay? So I'm gonna give you a tricks. So if you don't know the condition of your transmission, don't worry, you can flush it. You can drain the transmission, and we're gonna check the fluid with a clean bucket. And if the fluid is too nasty, you just have to put it back on the transmission. I'm gonna show you how. So first of all, you're gonna put the car on the ramps, and you're gonna need a jack and some jack stands for your safety. So I jack the rear of the car with the hitch, and make sure that your car is level. You can measure the frame to the floor to be sure that you are level, but level is the key, because if the car is too like this, you cannot take a great measure of the quantity you need in the transmission. So make sure you are flat. The first thing you want to do is to check and inspect the fill plug to make sure that you are able to remove it, because if you drain the fluid and cannot put it back, you have a big problem. So make sure to inspect this hole before. And to get a nice access, I'm gonna remove this part just to show you. I'm gonna remove this part. This is really very easy, but if you see just right there, this part, this is where you're gonna add the fluid. So you can remove the battery if you want to get a nice access, but just remove this duct will be all right. So you just have two Phillips heads to remove, just like this. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a couple of extension of 3/8, and just like this, gonna remove this plastic screw. Okay, so this is the plastic screw, and you see right there, there's a hole, and this hole should be aligned with this pipe. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make a mark with a white pencil to see where is the hole and try to align this hole with the vent of the transmission. And by the way, you can replace this seal. Sometimes it can leak, but there's a seal right there that you can replace. And now I'm gonna take my white pencil, and so now I know where is the hole. Okay, so now I'm under the car, and as you see, I removed this plastic. I'm sorry because I removed this plastic a couple of weeks before, because I have to do a lot of maintenance of this car and I do it in the weekend, so I had to remove it every time. So basically this is really easy. Just have to remove a couple of 10 millimeters and this plastic will come off very easily. So don't stress with that. And now, as you see, just right there, this is where you're gonna inspect if your transmission is full. So this is the overflow plug, and right there, this is where you're gonna drain the transmission. Okay, so now you're gonna need a bucket like this, and this one is nice because I can see how much later I take out of the transmission. So and make sure this is really clean, because if the transmission fluid is way too dark and it smells very burn, you should not replace that. So you're gonna take that and put it back in the fill plug, and that's it. So this is how you do to make sure that you're not gonna have a problem, because if you drop the transmission fluid in a dirty bucket mixed with oil or coolant, I don't know what, it's over. You cannot replace your fluid. So make sure you got a clean bucket. So now here we go with the 24 millimeters. Okay, just like this. Okay, so I'm gonna remove it. So it's normal to be a little bit dark, just like this, because my car got 120,000 miles. So this is normal, and this is what you want to see, because if you look like this, it's pretty dark, but just like this, when the light passed through, this is a kind of dark cherry color. So this is what you should see. If you hesitate about the color of the transmission fluid, okay, take a white paper towel like this and put fresh oil in it. So this is brand new oil. This is the oil from my Santa Fe. So you see it's a kind of bloody color, brownish, something like that. It's very normal. And this is burn. So if your fluid transmission look like that, you really don't want to change or flush the transmission, because you're gonna remove all the metal flakes. I talk you about it, and you risk to have a slip transmission, so you're gonna break it. If your fluid transmission looks like that, because your bucket was clean, you're gonna put back the oil inside of your transmission. In this case, you're gonna save the transmission. I explain why. This is the reason why I use a clean bucket to take the old oil, because I don't want to be mixed with engine oil or coolant. It can be left on my regular catch can. So I'm gonna let it drain out, and during this time, as you see right there, there's a magnet at the end with a little bit of shaving. That this is exactly what I talk about you. The kind of metal shave that you're gonna have inside your transmission fluid. This is what I talk about, and this is pretty normal that you got this. And by the way, it's a good time to change this crush washer. But to be honest, you can reuse it, but you can have a leak, so you have to redo the process. So this is a good time to change it. So now make sure to clean this magnet correctly during the time that the fluid comes out. Okay, so now if we go on the owner manual, they said, I'm sorry, it's in French, they said that the automatic transmission needs 7.8 liter or 8.24 quarts, and this is not what you're gonna extract of the transmission, because if we remove the 7.8 liter, that means that you completely flush every fluid inside of the transmission. And anyway, you cannot, because there's a kind of big ball, they call it the torque converter. This is the kind of clutch like you have a manual transmission. It's the link between the engine and the transmission, and this big ball is full of fluid, so you're never gonna be able to flush every ounce of fluid with a bucket like this. You have to extract it with the machine. So what they do, they're gonna suck and push new fluid in the same time. So they're gonna recirculate the fluid at the dealer. But this is really nice. This is a good way to do, and to my opinion is the best way to do, just to make a change every 30,000 miles. Like I said before, is the way to go. And if we check on the spec of the oil, they said that we need ATF SP4. So that's what we want. I'm gonna show you. Okay, so for this job, I'm gonna use Valvoline ATF, and if we go at the back, you're gonna see just right there, Hyundai Kia SP4. So this fluid is good, so that's what I'm gonna use. Okay, so now the drain is over. I'm gonna put back the clean magnet, the clean drain plug. Always start it by hand. And now they recommend to torque the drain plug to 30 foot-pound, but to be honest, you can just torque it by hand and give it a little snug. This is just because it's aluminum, so you don't want to break anything. Okay, so just like this, and make sure to clean all around the bolt to make sure that the next time you go there, you don't think this is a leak. So as you see, we take off almost 4 liter, so we're gonna put back 4 liter ish, and we're gonna start the car and warm up the car. So now you're gonna use a long funnel like this to reach the transmission, and now we are ready to fold the transmission. So now we know that we remove 4 liter, so I make a mark at 1 liter, so it's gonna be my gauge to see how much I want to put it on. So now I'm gonna put 4 liter of it carefully, just like this. I have something like 1 liter, just a little bit under 1 liter on it, because it's a 5 liter. So I throw 4 liters of this in the transmission. So now I'm gonna put back the fill plug in place, and I'm gonna start the car. Okay, so I'm gonna put back the plug by hand because it's plastic. You don't want to go crazy with that. And now I'm gonna try to align the line just like this. So as you see right there, the line is parallel to this little pipe right there. So I'm sure now that the hole will align and the vents should work correctly. So if you got a scan tool like me, by the way, X tool is a very nice tool. The A30M, this is really nice. You can do a lot of things with that. This is bidirectional. I'm not sponsored by A30M, sorry, but this scanner is very cheap, somewhere around $200, but you can do a lot of nice thing with this car, because this car is a kind of strange. When the third shift, when the car is cold, there's a kind of hesitation. So I hope that the fluid will help to smooth the transmission, and we can do a relearn of the transmission with this tool. This is really nice. To plug your scanner, you just have to remove this plastic, and there's a light so you can see what you do. Okay, so just like this. But you don't need a scanner to do the job. I'm gonna show you something else that you can use. The reason why I'm gonna use a scanner is just to see what is the temperature of the transmission. But don't worry, I'm gonna time how much time the car needs to be at operating temperature, sorry. And today I think it's 20 degree Celsius. I'm gonna put it on Fahrenheit, so it's gonna give you a good range of how much time you need to have the correct temperature. So now you're gonna start the car and just wait. At least you're gonna see that the coolant should be at is a normal range, so we're gonna wait. So the car is still on the ramps, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the shifter and you're gonna run it to the R and drive, and wait 3 seconds at each gear to make circulate the fluid everywhere. So take your time, so the pump will do its job, and you just want to do that a couple of times. Okay, so now I have my digital gun. So if I touch right there or right there, we are something around 115. So you lose a couple of degrees because it's not directly in contact with the fluid. So when you're gonna reach somewhere around 120 with the gun, it's all right. Okay, so now the car is still running, and we are ready to take a look of the fluid level. So take your 3/8 extension, and just like this. Okay, so like this is too much, so we just want to wait until we're gonna have a slightly stream of fluid. I'm gonna tell you when, sorry. So this is a little bit too much again. Okay, so this is what you want to see. So just like this, it's perfect. So we're gonna put back the plug. Just like this. And you just squeeze it gently. And make sure this is dry, so the next time you can inspect if something is wrong with the plug. So that's it, you know that your fluid level is good. So just like this, you save a ton of money. It costs only 50 bucks to do the job by yourself, and take somewhere around 1 hour because you have to let the car run 30 minutes. But this is really quick, really fast, but this is really fun to do, and you be sure that your transmission will go well. So please leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.